Welcome to the USU Career Studio podcast. Thanks for joining us for our Friday face-to-face episode. My name is Tatyana Felt. I'm your host today, and I'm very excited to have CJ Peragallo, Senior Admissions Specialist at Utah State University, as our guest today. So welcome, CJ.
Thank you for having me, Tanya. I appreciate it. This is great.
Good. I'm so excited to have you here and talk about the soft skills, but we'll start with your bio.
Yeah.
I'm going to read your bio to our listeners. CJ is from Draper, Utah. He's currently the Senior Admissions Specialist for the USU Wasatch region. His previous roles include working in admissions and orientation at our main campus in Logan. CJ graduated with a bachelor's in human experience design and interaction. He's currently working on his master's in instructional technology and learning science. CJ enjoys watching movies, lifting weights, and anything involving food.
Yep.
It's awesome. One fun fact about you, CJ, you were an actor in a low-budget movie.
I was.
You know what's coming, right? I'm going to ask you about what kind of character did you play?
Yeah,
what was the movie about?
Well, it was like you said, it was a low-budget movie. It was a horror film. So it was
awesome.
It was kind of off the cuff. I met this one guy when I was up in Logan. I think it was, my sophomore year or something. And we just kind of hit it off. And then a couple weeks later, he's like, "Hey, I'm making this movie. I was wondering if you wanted to be an actor in it." I'm like, "Heck yeah, I do." So I think I had 2 lines in it, and maybe one of those was cut. So but I'm in it. I have a line, and I played so do you know, like those classic teen movies where there's like a high school jock that's a bully. I played his friend. So I was the right hand man to the main antagonist. So it was kind of fun. But it was a fun experience, and it was cool to kind of see what it was like to be on a set and do all of that stuff. So it was cool. It was fun. I saw the movie probably about 6 months later is when it all wrapped up. So we had a little screening at it at a nickel cade kind of theater.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
It was very fun. It was a cool experience.
What did your friends and family think about it?
They haven't seen it. I'm the only one. It was, I don't think they even know that it was a small thing. But
well, now it's out.
Right.
Now the secret is out.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad you had that experience.
Mm-hmm.
So today we're going to talk about the soft skills in the workplace, right? So soft skills, often called people skills, are an essential part of improving your ability to work with other people, right? And they can also have a nice, good influence to further your career. Soft skills, I feel like they're not generally all or none.
Mm-hmm.
It's many people have very adequate soft skills, and some even excel in certain skills, but they struggle with others. For example, you can have an excellent communication ability, but then you can struggle with time management or crack under pressure or something like that, right? Another thing about soft skills, it's not uncommon that the influence and importance is underestimated.
Yeah.
And we overestimate our proficiency in them as well. So this is what I'd like to talk to you about today, how you've learned the soft skills, how you've used them, maybe in your school life or work, or even personal life.
Yeah.
So you good with that?
Yeah, of course. Well, I guess starting off, we should probably define what are soft skills, right?
Please.
So in kind of doing some research, I found out that the term soft skills actually started in the 1950s with the U.S. military. So what they did is they found that the most effective of their branch or the soldiers, right, in their unit, excelled in what they coined as soft skills. And they named them soft skills because it didn't have anything to do, this skill in particular didn't have anything to do with machinery. And machines are hard to the touch, right? Whereas like leadership skills, effective communication, team building, everything like that, that had to do with people, and people are softer to the touch. So that's what they coined the term soft skills for. But I guess soft skills, I think they have many interpretations to them. I think it's better to just list maybe examples, but I would say just an overall broad definition of them I would use is a collection of, like, I guess, skills or personality traits that you feel that you're confident in and that you can excel in, right? And that can take place in many different ways. But that's a good grouping of them. And it doesn't have to do with that technical aspect of your work, but they do influence that. So that's kind of what I would define them as. Really, examples of those would be, like I mentioned, effective communication skills. That's going to be one of the biggest ones, especially in today's age, whether that's in person or that's over email, right? Digital communication. But being an effective communicator is huge in the workplace, outside of it, right? While you're in school, everything like that. But we can get into all of those later. But that's kind of the main thing that I would say is that really that interpersonal relationship skills, right, is what we're focusing on. So, and those can be developed in a lot of different ways. I think probably the starting point for anybody looking to develop those skills is to take a step back and reflect on what you're already confident in, right? If you're a good public speaker, but you do not communicate your ideas effectively, right? You can start with that public speaking and then kind of build out those other skills from there, right? So there's lots of different opportunities to get started. But for anybody wanting to develop these skills, I would say, like, reflect on what you are particularly well developed in first, and then we can go on from there, because I mean, it's such a huge world that we can dive into when it comes to these, different skills.
No, excellent suggestion. And thank you for that bit of history. I did not know about the soft skills.
Cool. I was like, where did that come from? Why do we call it soft skills? So.
I love that, how like you explained where it originated from and the difference between hard skills and soft skills, and just delves perfectly into my first question for you. So if technical skills get you hired and soft skills get you promoted, in your opinion, what is the most underrated soft skill and why?
It's a great question. I would probably say in the workplace, it's going to be really, I mean, to stand out and to get that promotion, you have to show some leadership ability, right? And leadership can take place in a lot of different forms, but mainly you need to be able to show that you can lift your team up, right? And anybody can do that, whether you're a senior executive, director, whatever that may be, right? Or you're the person at the bottom of the team, right? You can always lift up your team in some way or another. So I would say, like, leadership, and also I like to talk a lot about like servant leadership, right? So putting others before yourself, always, going last when it comes to different functions, right? I think that's very important and very effective. And it's a great way to lead because it's kind of the opposite of what people really think leadership is, right? So I really like that. But I would say leadership is going to be your biggest, like, trait and thing that you need to be confident in order to really just grow and develop your career from day one.
Okay, awesome. Okay, very good. My next question is, some people think that you are born with soft skills, right? The set of soft skills. And some people think that you can develop them, right? So I kind of already know how you feel about it, but would you reiterate it one more time? Like, what's your take on it? And how can someone intentionally develop the skills that they don't have?
No, great question. With that, I mean, everybody's different, right? You're going to excel in different areas just naturally, right? So I would say it's a little bit of both. I would say that you're born with certain skills, right? And it just comes natural to that individual, right? And you're lacking in something, or you're not comfortable in doing something else, right? I'll use public speaking as an example, right? There are some people that are terrified of public speaking, and that's the last thing that they would ever want to do, right? But they have really good skills when it comes to interpersonal communication and with small scale conversations, right? Everything like that. But you tell them to get up on stage and present, that's the last thing that they're going to want to do, right? And then there's other people who are very well versed in public speaking, and they're totally fine with getting up in front of a crowd and communicating their ideas. But then when it comes to that one-on-one communication, they could be lacking that aspect, right? So it all just kind of depends on that individual. So I would say, yes, some people are born with more of a comfortability towards pursuing some sort of skill. But then again, there's always different ways to develop where you might be lacking in, right? And really, soft skills are kind of difficult to pinpoint because there's something that you never stop developing, right? You're always going to keep on, becoming a better presenter, right? Learning how to communicate more effectively, learning how to lead your team, to get you into a better position overall in the future, right? So I would say the best way to develop and to start getting out of your comfort zone when it comes to these skills is to throw yourself in that situation, right? You're going to be a lot more comfortable with tackling a task after you've already done it once, right? That second time around, it's a lot more easy. It's a lot more natural to the individual. So you just need to go out and do the work, right? There's no, I mean, there are courses that you can take for, public speaking or different skills that we're talking about today. But overall, you got to do it. You got to do the work, or else you're not going to. It's just like any other thing. You have to practice.
Absolutely agree. Would you mind sharing an example of a skill that you've focused on and developed?
Yeah, no, for sure. I'll talk about my recent transition into my senior role now. I've never been a supervisor before. So I've never directly managed, individuals before, right? So now that I'm in that sort of role, that's been a very big learning curve for me, because I feel like I'm very good at managing myself, but I've never managed another person before. So with that, I had to find how I manage and how I lead. I had to do some self-reflection and figure out what I was comfortable with. Really, I'm not the type of leader to micromanage my employees or do anything like that, right? I'm a very hands-off type of leader where I trust my employees to get the work done, and I will be there to support them and make sure that they have all the resources in order to get the job done, right? But I'm not going to hold their hand the whole entire time.
Kind of like perfect boss.
Right. Well, thank you. Awesome. And you have to really, in this position, it's important as a leader to make sure that your employees also are accepting of your leadership style. Because if I have employees that need a lot more handholding, and then you need to get down on their level and you need to make sure that they're comfortable, right? So there are certain times where an individual might have to step in more, right? And I have to step in more. But it's important for that person to make sure that they know how they lead effectively. And if their teammate needs something else, it's also important to be adaptable in the workplace, right? So I would say just overall in my role, that skill of managing and being a leader in my team, that has taken several months to feel more comfortable in, right? And I'm still learning every day, because every day is new and you come into different problems or situations or tasks that you need to take care of. But
yeah. Yeah, yeah, I hear you. I think you mentioned something also about adaptability. I think that's a great soft skill for all of us because to develop and to have because the environment is constantly changing, and you're like, or with people, they require different approaches, and then
it's
as
important.
a boss,
It's important to be adaptable, but quickly, right? You need to be able to quickly adapt to your situation, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's always very important. And that also takes an effective leader. And then that also takes somebody who is confident in their soft skills, because without that confidence, you're not going to be able to switch gears and, switch your game plan on the fly. Because you're not well versed in that adaptability, right? So, super important.
Great answer. So, what's your advice for someone who says, "I am just not a people person," or "I am naturally introverted"? Like, how can they develop the soft skills they need in the workplace, but still stay true to their personality if they want to stay true to their personality?
So something that's very important to myself, if I were to hire an individual, is making sure that that individual is genuine, right? I think we as humans are we're very well versed in terms of when somebody's not being genuine, right? When they're pretending to be somebody that they're not. We can kind of see through that fairly easily. So as somebody who would have the potential to hire somebody, I'm looking for somebody who's going to be genuine, right, in that job interview, right? With that, I mean, overall, it's very important to make sure that you as an individual are comfortable with your own skills and that you're not trying to, like I said, be somebody that you're not, right? So if I'm an introverted person, right, and I prefer to, not really interact with people and try to, I guess, quote unquote, develop these soft skills, right? These soft skills are not just skills that we use and practice in like an in-person interaction, right? They're done over Zoom. They're done over email, right? They're done over direct messages, right? It's all about that. So if you're not an effective communicator in person, then you can still develop those skills through an email, through a text, right? Making sure that you're effective in digitally communicating, right? So lots of different ways to do that. I would also say it's all about, I mean, I don't know if you truly believe in introverted, extroverted people, right? I feel like everybody's kind of a mix, and they're introverted in some situations, extroverted in others, right? So like I said in the beginning, you have to reflect on what you're comfortable with, right? And what you excel in. And then once you identify your baseline, that's when you'll be able to set little goals for yourself in the future, right? So if you're not comfortable in something right now, then you can say, okay, 6 months from now, I'm going to work on this particular skill and see where we can go from there, right? But like I said, if you're very not wanting to try these soft skills out and try to develop them in person, they are adaptable to this digital age that we're in right now, right? So lots of different ways to do that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah. So you've just touched upon something important. We live in a digital world, right? Completely, or increasingly every day. Do you think technology is making it harder or easier to develop strong soft skills, especially for students and young professionals? And why or why not?
Well, I think like everything that is new in this world, it can be at a benefit for society, or it can be at a detriment, right? So it's all about the user, and it's all about how they use technology, right? I'll talk about my own experience up in Logan, right? So I was in a fully online undergraduate program, right? So I didn't I mean, this is for my last 2 years of undergrad. So for those last 2 years, I didn't go to class. I didn't interact with my peers in the class except through, online discussions, right? And those kinds of forums. But I was not in the traditional classroom setting. I just didn't do that, right?
Yeah.
So how I subsidized that is I worked on campus. I went to campus events, right? I was very involved with different committees, different groups, clubs on campus, right? So I think it's very important for every individual to have a good balance, right? If you are totally digital and online, then you need to find something that's going to satisfy that interpersonal connections, relationships, some other way, right? Whether that's joining like a club sport or, doing different activities on the weekends, you need to find ways to develop those skills otherwise, right? Or else you're going to remain stagnant in where you are. So it's very important to have something, and like I said, a good balance in your life, right? So that's kind of what I would recommend. I think technology is great and there's lots of ways that we can utilize it. But if we rely on it too much, then that's where we're going to really not be doing any benefit towards ourselves. We're going to be doing more harm for ourselves, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We just rely on it.
Yeah.
And not look for opportunities to develop soft skills in the real world.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Love it. Is there anything else you'd like to say to our audience on soft skills? Any advice? Any last thoughts?
I mean, I would just, again, you got to put yourself out there. You have to.
I love that.
Make sure that you have to be proactive in these skills, right? I think in technical skills, you can get complacent. And once you learn the skill, you're like, hey, check the box. I'm done with that. These soft skills aren't like those, right? You need to keep on furthering your passion for them and make sure that you have good avenues to put yourself in those uncomfortable situations, because that's the only way that anybody's going to grow. So that's what I would say. Just get out there, do your thing.
I love it.
Right.
So you heard, folks, you heard CJ, get out of your comfort zone and get out there and develop those soft skills by practicing them every day. Love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tanya. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks.
We hope you loved this episode of the USU Career Studio podcast. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and share this episode with your friends and family.